something, it has to be profound. It has to be something big, groundbreaking. Whereas creativity can be something really small, as simple as a plastic bottle. So you have to be able to see creativity as a part and parcel of life. It's a life skill that you need to cultivate, and also I would actually explain that to the parents much more than the importance of mathematics or linguistics. They are all important. I'm not.
We're not shooting them down. We're not making enemies on the show this morning. We're pro math and we're pro science, but we're also pro creativity.
That's
so
right.
art, music, dance, things that get shot off the list when you're in school, right at the very beginning of your life, and are not taken seriously enough. But creativity is a very lucrative business, and I think that is also something that people need to understand. That perhaps here we might be a little further away from making it a very real situation where you can live off being a writer, for instance, or live off being a dancer. But it's not entirely impossible around the world. Globally, the biggest superstars that we know are all in the creative industries. So perhaps you need to
probably they are the richest.
Yeah, they probably are the richest, and that's where they're heading. But we were talking before the break about various activities that people can do to kind of open up their minds, to think a little more creatively within organizations, maybe even at home. Let's talk a little bit about this
within the organization.
Within organizations.
Okay, so you can do brainstorming. So you bring people from different areas, and you do a brainstorming session. You can do also what we call brainstorming, and that is when you.
How does that work?
You don't talk. So you use you just write. You use post-it notes. It's because we know some people are bottom-up thinkers. They look at the resources and then they come up with a product or the solution. But there are also top-down thinkers. They think about the bigger picture, what needs to be achieved, and then they work downwards. So when you have many people in a team and you get them to write these things and paste it in a hierarchy, somewhere down the line these meet.
You have a system.
You have a system, and in a very short span of time you can achieve a solution. It's actually much more effective than brainstorming. So that's one method. Also, say for example somebody needs to look at the traffic problem. We know it's not the most pleasant of experiences to drive on the roads these days.
Columbus especially, yeah.
And so how would you say solve a traffic problem? So maybe you can take an analogy from nature. So you can look at say insects like ants or bees. So you take, using analogies and metaphors are also really powerful. So that's one way of doing it, and also perspective taking. So, for example, if I'm trying to understand somebody who's nearing his retirement, and I'm just trying to see why he's behaving that way or why he's bringing that solution to the table, maybe I could say, what if I am to retire tomorrow? So it's a personal analogy that you're using. And also you can use parallels. For example, you can maybe say, how is a book and a light bulb, how are they similar? So you can use various analogies and strategies to come up with a solution. And I like to use the word synthesizing a solution, because there are so many ideas within a team, and organizations are about teams. So synthesizing that I think is crucial. Also, there has to be somebody who is spearheading this. There's a creative leader within the team who's troubleshooting and also diffusing all the conflicts within the team.
Because I can see how that can work out.
Oh yes.
You'll have obviously a lot of skeptics also initially, I guess, if you're doing this kind of thing, if you want to practice this kind of creative atmosphere, you'll have the skeptics in the beginning, so you need someone who has the charisma and the want to, to make this kind of thing happen.
And also the attitude that it would happen, that it's possible, because some of us start doing something and we accept at the very beginning it's going to fail anyway. So why are we attempting that in the first place? I don't know. So you have to have somebody with that positive strength and also that positive frame of mind that they would get there. And that they would change something, and we can see now a lot of young people. I think they are brilliant. They are. I'm sure they are much more brilliant than you and I, the ones who are about 10 years younger to us. And especially when it comes to technology, they're so advanced. And when I think of myself,
now you're making us both sound old. The younger generation. No, but honestly, they're obviously very tech savvy.
So technology-wise, they're more creative and innovative than you and I. Yeah. But that does not go to say that they are creative in their interpersonal skills. They are creative in their life skills. That they are more street smart. So it's a fine balance, and you need to sort of balance all areas in your life in order to achieve that right amount, right proportions of creativity.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing about creativity is that it can be quite therapeutic, and I think a lot of people who have, say, 9-to-5 jobs, for instance, say, oh, I like painting, I find it therapeutic. Or I like watching dance because it's therapeutic. But obviously there is some element there. So creative therapy, what is all of that about?
It's a connection that you make with something within you and also something outside you. I always like to think that creativity comes both ways. Something from outside, we extract or absorb that inspiration from outside, but there is also something within you that has to allow that to take place. And sometimes we click with that moment, or say that particular dance step or particular color, and then you just flow, and I call that a moment of flow. And you don't remember what happened before that, or you don't know whether the time is running out or not. It's just you're in a form of flow, and I think that's creativity at its best. A lot of writers, I follow a lot of writers, this is how I know, they experience this, and then they actually mention this in some of their work, that sometimes it's almost a spiritual experience, and for some people it's very cathartic. So say you've gone through some sort of a trauma. Through art, you can release that trauma. And I know this for a fact because we have worked in the North and East after the war, using different creative therapies, from dance to art to drama. And we have seen the effectiveness, how people express themselves through these forms of art. And why this is the case is because sometimes sadness cannot be expressed through words. It has to be expressed using another method or mode. And creativity, be it dancing, be it drama, or be it paint, it gives you that medium to release yourself. And I think that's something really beautiful and very powerful. And we've seen this in our participants.
Let's talk a little more about that kind of work that you've done, because obviously it's inspired you a lot, and you've been doing a fair amount of writing about it yourself. So let's talk a little bit about the kind of work you did, and the kind of people you met, and where your creativity stemmed from.
Well, this whole initiative started back in 2011, and I have been frustrated over the fact that I couldn't speak Tamil, and I felt I, being a psychologist in a post-war country, not being able to contribute in that part of the country, it just did not sit well with me. But one day I heard somebody talking about creative therapies. I mean, I've heard about creative therapies before, but it never occurred to me that I could use this method. And then I got myself trained in that. And then we started designing different activities. So say, for example, we have different activities for drama, we used different props, we used puppets, and then we took all this and we went to Jaffna, and we did this with school children, widows, and also we did it with social workers who took these skills back to their communities in the Wani. And what we experienced there was much more than art, much more than a connection. We actually experienced something beyond love. I don't want to even call that love, because it's as if you're going there with no intention whatsoever. And I'm telling you, when my students and I went there, I think we would have been we would have been really insane. We used to take the night bus to Jaffna, and for some reason my students' parents entrusted me with these students who were about 8 to 9 years younger to me. And so we used to take the night bus. As we went to Jaffna, we would work on the group of widows. And then we would go to Karyanagar to do work with the children in schools. And the next day we would dedicate entirely for the social workers. So my upcoming book is basically on that. And I never went there to write a book.
You went there,
just got inspired,
yeah.
And then all these ideas incubated inside my mind for another 1.5 years, even though people said you should really pen this experience down. And I thought, oh no, it really didn't sort of gain the momentum. But recently, I just one day sat down and started writing something, and something from the past
flow.
clicked. Exactly, the flow.
It happened.
And it just happened. So and that's what I like about writing. I think a book that I would want to take ownership of should actually flow. It should happen to me. I shouldn't deliberately
write
create
for the sake of writing.
Exactly.
Because you want to publish it and you want to be known as writer. You're writing because it comes from within. And with that, well, we hope to have you back on the show with the new book. Hopefully this year you're looking at this year with the book. So good luck with that, Roseanne.
Thank you,
and thank you very much for inspiring us and for talking to us about the role of creativity in our everyday lives. And of course, on the show a little later on, we'll be talking about more creativity. We're talking to a gentleman about something that's very exciting that's coming up. But all of that in just a bit. And thank you once again. We'll see you right after the break. Hi everyone, welcome back to the morning show, and of course on this side of the break we're talking a little more about creativity, and this time in the form of the 3rd Colombo International Theatre Festival. We have with us in the studio Dr. Ajay Joshi, who is an international observer who's been invited especially to come on board at the International Theatre Festival. So we'd like to say good morning and thank you very much for being here.
Good morning.
Now on the show just before you came in, we had Roseanne talking to us about creativity and academic, the value that people have for creativity and for academic studying and so on. And obviously you come from a place with a very diverse kind of, you have a very diverse background. You are a practicing dentist, but you also have your background in journalism and so on. So tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into the festival itself.
Yeah, I don't want to sound too pompous, but it's very interesting, but we invariably tend to compartmentalize life as a science and therefore no arts,
one or the other,
therefore not a commerce and so on and so forth. But I think it's an ongoing process, and it's lovely to see how creativity, since you talked about it, and how theatre, communication basically with patients, and you express yourself, and getting a good smile is also a piece of art. And so I've just found it very beautifully tumbling into each other. Mm-hmm. So it's fun.
It is fun, but we're here mostly today to talk about the theatre festival, which of course is in its 3rd year. But if we can go back in time and take a look at the 1st year and the 2nd year, and
actually, I wasn't really involved in the 1st edition of the Colombo International Theatre Festival. I kind of got in the 2nd, that was last year when I was here, and again.